Coming up on this episode of Southall Computing, how can you maximize your Wi-Fi coverage? And that's coming up next. Hey YouTube, Dan from Southall Computing here, and today we're going to talk about how to get the maximum coverage of Wi-Fi inside your house. Now before we dive into anything here, we should discuss what are the enemies of Wi-Fi before we even continue. So let's begin. Number one, a microwave in use will actually generate interference on your Wi-Fi connection. This is something to be aware of. Next on the list, metal walls, ceilings, or metal in general. Metal will not allow the Wi-Fi signal to propagate throughout your home. Number three on the list is dense walls. Now what do I mean by this? Things like stone walls, cinder blocks, and chimneys will also interfere and degrade your Wi-Fi signal. Number four on the list, 2.4 gigahertz devices. This could range from Bluetooth, wireless keyboards, mice, pretty much anything that operates on a 2.4 gigahertz frequency. This will also include 2.4 gigahertz cordless phones within the house, and as well some baby monitors that also operate in the same frequency range. Now that we have identified the enemies of Wi-Fi, let's talk about location. Location is everything. Location is key to your perfect Wi-Fi coverage in your house. Number one on my list is elevation. Higher the location, the better your Wi-Fi coverage is going to be. Number two, never put a Wi-Fi receiver in your basement. Number three on this list is centralize the location of your Wi-Fi router. In addition to being at the highest location in your house, you should also put it in the center of the house as well. And lastly, number four, never put your Wi-Fi router behind the TV. As we stated before, metal is the enemy when it comes to your Wi-Fi signal. Putting it behind a television will also kill off your Wi-Fi signal. Bringing up our last category here is upgrades. Now, what can you possibly do to your router to get it to perform better? Number one, try a bigger antenna. For example, this one here is a 9 dBi antenna. It's an omnidirectional antenna, but the problem is only certain routers can use it. For example, this Asus WL500W does not have removable antennas, so that would not be a viable option for this particular router. But if we look at the RTN12 here, and we turn it around, these antennas are actually unscrewable. So this might be a 3 or a 4 dBi antenna. You can put this guy on here, and voila! Now you have a larger antenna and definitely better reception on your router. You'll also run into instances where there are no external antennas at all on a particular router. Let's look at the Cisco Linksys E3000 series here. The antenna is actually built into this unit. So putting an external antenna is not an option on this particular series. Another thing to consider is upgrade your firmware. Now, manufacturers are constantly updating the firmware on their devices. It'd be a good thing to check their site to see if there's any updates and improvements that might apply to your particular device. For advanced users, I recommend using the DDWRT or Tomato firmware because you'll be able to increase the transmit power on your Wi-Fi device. Now be forewarned, when increasing the transmit power on these devices like this, you run the risk of getting a dirty signal. For example, you'll see a stronger signal connection on your laptop or desktop, but unfortunately it becomes a very unusable and unstable signal when you're trying to use your Wi-Fi network. Really quickly here too, if you're able to upgrade the antennas on your router and you can't put it in a centralized location within your house, another thing you can buy off of eBay or Amazon or buy.com and all those fun places is directional antennas. This one here works great if your particular Wi-Fi setup is at one side of the house and you need full coverage on the other end. Another thing you could try is a Wi-Fi repeater. Wi-Fi repeaters basically allow you to extend your wireless network. The only problem is it also increases the amount of traffic that's being broadcast across your channels. I highly don't recommend doing this. If you can, take the time and get the location of your router in a more centralized location in your home. That's going to be your best bet when it comes to perfect coverage. And lastly, for you desktop users, a lot of you might just have a 2 or 3 dBi antenna. You might want to consider purchasing a Wi-Fi cable extender here, such as this one here, where this would rest on top of the tower and this here would plug into the back of the Wi-Fi card, also upgrading the antenna as well. The reason why I bring this up is typically the Wi-Fi card is in the back of the machine, shielded by the computer itself and getting very poor Wi-Fi reception. By doing it this way, you can put the antenna on top of the computer and it will get better coverage. And finally, how old is your current router? Is it pushing at least 6 years old? It might be time to upgrade it. Newer technologies and antenna types are constantly evolving in this field. So if your router is pushing more than 6 years, I highly recommend it's time to get a new one. Another thing to try with your routers as well is changing the positioning on your antenna. By moving the position of the antennas, you might actually hit the sweet spot that's perfect for your house for your Wi-Fi coverage. And that pretty much wraps it up here. If you like what you see, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, it would be greatly appreciated. This is Dan from Southall Computing, and as always folks, until the next time.